بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. It's class number 2 on purification of the heart, and last week we gave an intro and we're moving now to lines 9 through 15 of the Matharat al-Qulub, purification of the heart. It's translated by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. May Allah preserve him. So he said, after firmly grasping this foundation, then mastering the heart's infirmities is the second stage. Knowledge of the heart's sicknesses or diseases, what causes them and what removes them, is an obligation upon everybody. So we can say that the ruling of learning this, we say the ruling of learning this is fard ayn. Okay? Hopefully I won't need to repeat fard ayn again, but it means personal obligation. Every Muslim should know. Something that's fard means it's an obligation. Ayn means upon everyone. When we say fard kifaya, that is an obligation that is upon the whole community of Muslims. If some people do it, the obligation is removed from the rest. That's called a fard kifaya, communal obligation. If some people do it, the rest of the people are not responsible for it. I'll give you an example. Salat al-Janaza, praying on the dead. If a group of Muslims washed the body and prayed over them, the rest of the Muslims are not sinful. But if nobody washed the body, no one prayed over the dead Muslim, then everybody will be held accountable equally, because everybody sinned. That's called fard kifaya, communal obligation. Fard ayn is when it is every single Muslim, they have to do it. It's not just a group responsibility, it is a personal responsibility. So to learn this knowledge is fard ayn. You can say an obligation upon everyone. That's how we can translate fard ayn. An obligation upon everyone. So is a woman is she excluded from that? No. Is an adult who's 50 excluded from that? No. Nobody's excluded except technically the really young child till he gets older, but it's good to learn this now so you have some ideas until you get older. Okay? So whatever causes the heart to get sick, whatever removes them, is an obligation. This is the ruling of Imam al-Ghazali, and our teacher Sheikh Salih early on made it clear that this is a responsibility upon everyone. So, but know that the obligation, I'm kind of skipping to what is most relevant, but know that the obligation of these diseases until no trace remains is beyond the capacity of human beings. It is not really possible for a human being to clean their heart to where every disease does not exist. That's not possible. It's not going to happen. However, scholars, they'll say something like the root is there. It's like a seed is there. The root is there. You can keep trimming it at the base or cutting it so that no root disease will come up. But it's there, and to get rid of it completely is not really possible. So for example, anger. No one can say, oh, I've mastered my anger. I don't get angry anymore. If I walk up to them and slap them real hard, believe me, they're going to get angry real quick. Right? It's there. Every potential disease will be there. But it's for the human being to struggle, to work hard, and to make sure that those don't grow. Okay? And there's ways that they grow. There's situations that make diseases of the heart spring up more. You can say it's more like, that seed that's there. We're talking about the seed is there. There's a way you can put good soil in it, and there's a way you can water it, and it can get nice and big of a disease for you. That's not what we want. Okay? And there's diseases that add to other diseases and make it worse. Anyway, so we're going to move along. He says, I'm going to give you some of those definitions anyway. So he says, moving on, he says, the refusal to give what is obliged. So now we're moving into the first disease now. We're moving into the first disease. And that is what is called in Arabic bukhul. Bukhul. Bukhul is translated as being a miser. Miserliness. Miser is M-I-S-E-R. Miser. A person who's a miser, is a person who is going to give the definition what those people are. A person who's a miser means they don't spend anything in the way of God. They hold all their money. They don't want to spend anything at all. The definition he gives is refusing to give what is obligation in Sharia to give out. So a person's zakat, he has to pay zakat, but he's like, I don't want to spend my money. I only have $500 left. And if I give, let's say 1,000, if I give my $25, I'm afraid my money will become a lot less. So I'm not going to give it out. That's being a miser. That's being a miser. Isa, can you grab me a glass of water, please? That's being a miser. Definition 1. Refusing to give what is an obligation in Sharia to give out. Refusing to pay zakat. Okay? Supporting one's dependents. A person who doesn't want to support people they're obligated to support. So for example, a husband is obligated to support his wife and his children. That's his obligation. If he decides I don't want to spend on him, I don't want to buy him food, I don't want to get him a house or an apartment, whatever they can afford, and I don't want to give him any, I don't want to buy him clothes, I don't want to do any of that, just sit where you are. That person is sick and he has a disease, and his disease is miserliness. Thank you. Also, he doesn't want to give the rights that is due to others. Say if they have a lot of money and they're able to, but they don't want to help their parents, they don't want to help their relatives. That person's a miser, especially if he has a lot of money that he can help out. So there are people that have rights. If you can help them, that'll be good. Or also what is included in there is to be extremely picky, what they call nitpicking, over things like buying something you're obligated to buy in Islamic law, like a shroud to bury your dead. And the person wants to get the best deal. He doesn't want to spend $20, wants to spend $5, and he's out shopping around where he can get a $5 deal for a shroud. Okay? That is ridiculous. This is an issue of death. Person has died. It's not the time to start nitpicking and trying to see how many cents he can save. That is miserliness. Also, a person who, for example, a person owes him some money and he's even counting the pennies of how much they owe. So that's considered to be not correct and becoming of a generous Muslim. Avoiding those things are even more so with a relative, with a neighbor, or a wealthy person. So don't be picky with your neighbor who has rights, or your relative who has rights, or a wealthy person, or when hosting guests. If you're hosting guests, you should not be a miser. And part of miserliness, what happens in a lot of the culture now, a person will come to your house and a person will ask him, do you want a drink of water? If you guys are looking at me saying, what's wrong with that? This is considered one of the worst bad manners you can think of. Someone comes to your house and you ask them if they want a drink of something. The correct etiquette of a generous person is you bring them water, juice, you put it in front of them, whether they want to drink it or not. Because to ask them, do you want to drink anything, is considered very rude by Islamic standards, because you're not being generous. You're being very miser. So you say, you want to drink some water? The person maybe doesn't want to inconvenience you, so they say, no, I'm okay. Because you put them in a position, yes, give me water, please. Now you put them in a position, they have to ask you like that. That's not a good thing to do. So if you have guests come over to your house, you should not just bring them a cup of water and say, look, I'm not a miser. Here's your cup of water. Right? You should make tea. You should have cookies. In my culture, I thank God, I grew up in a culture that really, I've seen within my culture people that really do that. A guest is coming, they'll get cookies, they'll get tea, black and green tea ready, they'll have juice, and they'll have everything before the guest gets there. So when the guest walks in, all those snacks and everything is already laid out for them, and then they'll say, please, please take. Then they won't feel bad. Oh, do you want some tea? Okay, I got to make it. Is that okay? Just sit down and wait for the tea. Very bad. It's not the etiquette of Muslims. Okay? Actually, also the etiquette of a Muslim is not to even ask them if they're hungry. If you have guests coming to your house and they're going to stay at your house for like 2-3 hours, it's best to also offer them some food if you're able to. Where do we get this from? Where do we get this from? Hey, we get this from the Quran. 2 people came to visit our Prophet Ibrahim. These 2 people were angels in the form of human beings. They came because they were going to destroy the people of Lot, Qawm Lut. They took the form of 2 human beings and they came to the house of Ibrahim. As soon as Ibrahim received the guest, come and sit. We'll start in about 10 minutes. Sit. As soon as Ibrahim received those guests, he rushed immediately as they walked in to go get a big roast of meat. I think it was a small cow, wallahu alam, a lamb or small cow. He went, got it ready, barbecued it or cooked it over the fire, got it ready, made this incredible meal, and brought it in front of these 2 who walked. He doesn't even know who they are. And he put it in front of them and said, will you not eat? It's in the Quran. Ibrahim is supposed to be a prophet, who is a prophet, who's an example of righteousness, an example of generosity. You see what the Quran teaches? That's powerful. So he went and got the food, and guess what the 2 guys did? They said, we don't want to eat. Ibrahim got scared. They're here to hurt me? They don't want to eat? What's going on? What did they say? They said, we're 2 angels sent from your Lord. Ibrahim didn't know because they're in a human form. He said, yeah, Ibrahim, we're messengers from God, sent to destroy the people of Lot. And so that's what generosity is. So a person who's a miser, forget about cooking you a food, because that is not technically miserliness. Somebody comes for 2 hours, you didn't cook them food, that's not miserliness necessarily. However, somebody comes for 2 hours, you're asking them if they want, what kind of tea they want, if they want coffee, just make it all. If you're very close with them, then it doesn't hurt to ask, I know you like coffee, so I'm going to make you some coffee. Just in case they don't. But again, make it all, bring it in front of them, put it there. Ahead of time is best. So that is part of excellence. So that's what he says, or when hosting guests, or concerning something in which such behavior is inappropriate. We mentioned burial, or purchasing an animal for during Eid al-Adha, a person is purchasing an animal to sacrifice for the sake of Allah, and he's being picky on the best deal he can find. No, he's getting reward for it. So also by doing that, if you're a miser and those things, then you've caused a lot of problems to yourself and taken away dignity and respect from yourself. This is comparable to the one who fulfills his obligations without good cheer or spends from the least of what he possesses. So another problem with people in our time is when they want to give something for the sake of Allah, they find the cheapest thing they can give away, right? So a lot of times in mosques, people go through their trashy clothes and things that could even go to the garbage bin. And then they take those and they don't have anywhere else to throw it, so they say, I like to donate this to the mosque, right? That's garbage. It's not what you give for the sake of Allah. If you want to donate clothes, that's fine. But you don't pick the trashiest, worst of it, stuff it's worthy of being thrown away, and you said, I want to donate this. The best of Muslims, they'll donate what they wear themselves, something nice. Something somebody was, when they put on, they say, oh wow, this guy gave it away. It's nice of them. So he's basically saying, this is something similar to that. That a person who loses dignity and doesn't do that is like a person who also, gives from the least of what he possesses. Because Allah says in the Quran that if you want to achieve birr, high level of excellence and righteousness, then you have to spend out of what you love. Out of what you love. So to be the most pious Muslim, you need to spend money from that which you love the most. Not just, you got 3 cents, you give a homeless guy or somebody in need without a house, you give him 3 cents or 5 cents or 27 cents or 97 cents. It's really bad. Well, give somebody, you give them 5 or 10 or dollar bills. It's better. Hey, got 5 cents for you. Do you see what we're talking about? This is not the way that it should be. Another line he adds, this is very good for us to know, as he says, this is comparable to one who fulfills his obligations without good cheer. Anything you're supposed to do as a Muslim as an obligation, you're supposed to do it happily. If you're supposed to pay zakat, you're supposed to give it happily. You're not supposed to give it like, oh, I gotta give zakat. Here you go. I don't want to give my money away. So you're sad. If you're helping a Muslim in need, you give money and you don't want to, without good cheer. That is unacceptable. As a Muslim, when you give zakat, or you spend on your family, or you buy somebody a gift, or whatever it is, you do it with good cheer. You do it happily. Because you're happy Allah gave you that opportunity to do a good act. So you're not supposed to do it, angry or sad or hating what you're doing. So you notice, like, when I do fundraisers and I ask people for money, some people give, but then they're like, they don't want to give. They're like, here you go. They're not happy about it. But then there's people like this. Well, I'm giving happily. Because anytime you fulfill the obligations of Allah, you should do so happily. So here's what you take from this. Number 1. So that's basically the gist of bukhal. Number 1, from miserliness, is not to be very cheap. Don't be a cheap person. Don't cheat people out giving them pennies. Don't take away from the rights of others. Help your parents, help your family, help your relatives. If you have money, be generous. When guests come, offer them good food, drinks without asking. They're spending the night, give them good towels. Don't give them the cheap ones. Right? Give them excellence. And give them what you would love to be treated if you were in their place. Okay? It's all part of etiquette. Otherwise, you are a miser. And the main definition you cannot forget of miserliness is that you are not giving out zakat and you're not giving out sadaqah to people in deep need because you love money and you're a miser and you won't give it out. And one last thing I'll say about miserliness. The scholars say all the 30 diseases, we're going to talk about maybe 20 of them, all these 30 diseases that Muhammad Mawlud mentions in his book, every one of them are bad. Bukhul is considered one of the worst, if not the worst, because it is the root disease that so many other diseases come from. So bukhul is very bad, especially about the severe warnings in the Quran and the Hadith about people who are have bukhul. What I wanted to say is this. A person who's a robber or steals, another person who's also a robber, they might get along and maybe even work together to rob places. They say every disease is bad, but bukhul, a miser, everyone hates a miser. Even a miser hates a miser. But all the other diseases, if two people have them, they won't hate each other. Only the miser hates the miser. So no one likes a miser. Don't be a miser. Don't be generous. The opposite of being a miser is being generous. Being generous. Spending out. So if you go with your friend to go get coffee, offer to pay for the coffee. Jump in. Don't ask him. Just pay for it. And most of the Muslims I've been around in my life always fight to pay for something because that's what a generous person does. Or you can go to a coffee shop and it's $1.50 and then the guy looks at you and goes, I can pay if you don't have money. Right? It's not the way of the Muslims. I've seen really generous people, mashallah, that'll pay for everything and not even want to be recognized by anybody. They don't do it except it's their nature. They want to make people happy. So inshallah, remember that. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.